I do care. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to a discussion which I admit I do care what books look like. For a long time on this channel, I've kind of cultivated the idea that, you know, the aesthetics of books don't matter to me very much, and that I don't collect books by their covers, or I don't pick books by what they look like. And for the most part, that's true. But of course, that's not entirely true. And that was exposed to me and kind of, you know, something I knew would be true already because of a video that Pat made called Your Best Shelf, or Top 10 Books our top 10 book list. I think it's a list of books that you want to own that you don't own. And I watched that video, and it was based on somebody else's video. I'll insert their name right here and leave a link to their channel down below as well. But in watching her video, I realized there are actually some books that I want that I've already read that I want just because of what they look like. So I thought I would do this today. It's kind of a tag. If you want to do this, I think it was really fun to kind of talk about and kind of be honest with yourself about what you like about books and what you don't like. So what I have here are 10 books or book-related items that I want, even though I've read the books that these things had to do with. So the first thing on the list is that I want this box that my box set of 1978 Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit classics came in. My mom got me this box of books for Christmas of 1978. I remember it distinctly. And the box with this gold foil and the 3 volumes of Lord of the Rings were in there, along with The Hobbit, kind of matching covers, a picture of Tolkien on the back. And somewhere along the line, I destroyed/lost that box. I still have the books. Matter of fact, those are still my copies of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit that I refer to, or that I may reread, or I have reread. But I lost the box. I want that box back. I'm not even sure my old beat-up, dilapidated copies would fit inside the box anymore, but I would really like to have that box back. That would definitely go on my shelf of books that I wish I had. Another thing I would say that's just purely aesthetic, in terms of books that I want, is I want a complete set of the Patrick O'Brian, Aubrey-Maturin books with matching paperback covers. Now, I don't have to have the hardbacks of these, but just matching paperbacks of all 21 would be great. When I first started reading the series, the paperbacks looked like this, and I really liked them. I really like this style. Not necessarily a huge fan of the pastel colored covers, but I like these books. Somewhere along the line, they switched the way the paperbacks look, so they looked like this. Really attractive covers, but the thing about these covers is that they're definitely different from this cover, but even worse from my point of view, the pictures on the spine create a scene. It's hard to see here, and I don't want to hold up a whole bunch of books, but when lined up together, they create a nautical naval scene. And so I would like that. I would like to have all the paperbacks this. That's not an impossibility, of course, but it is something that kind of goes against my principles of not rebuying books strictly for what they look like. But if we're just talking about wishing, I wish I had a complete set of these paperbacks of Patrick O'Brian's Aubrey-Maturin novels, so that on my shelf I would have that really cool picture that's on the spines. Another thing, another 2 books that I wish I had are both by the same author, and that author's name is Thomas Boyd. You may know that a long time ago now, I wrote a book about Thomas Boyd. It's a biography of him. He was a World War I Marine who fought in the trenches during World War I, present in most of the major battles. He came home to the United States, got involved in writing a newspaper column about books, and then he became a writer, somewhat at the encouragement of his wife, and he was mentored early on by F. Scott Fitzgerald and Sinclair Lewis. And in the end, he ends up writing, I want to say 13 books, a certain number of novels, a certain number of biographies. And when I was working on and researching and writing about Thomas Boyd, I began collecting first editions of his books. They weren't particularly valuable. He's not a really well-known name. And they look like this without the jacket cover. Most of his books were published by Scribner, and Scribner books, novels, or nonfiction all look like this. Or their fiction all looked like this, and their nonfiction had a blue cover, and they were larger books. And so I began collecting these over the years. But as I collected more, they seemed to get more expensive. And while I own a copy of all of his books, I don't own first editions of all his books. What I do have are these books for library companies. And this company, I believe, that existed, I want to say in the 60s or 70s, reprinted books in their original form, but with their own covers. And so I have one for the 2 Boyd's books I don't have a first edition of. This is a biography of John Fitch, the real inventor of the steamboat, and this is his book of World War I short stories, Points of Honor. There is actually a paperback edition that came out not long ago, but I'd like to have the original, first edition books like I have with Boyd's other works. That would be a big thing for me. And then I think everything else on my list is just strictly speaking a first edition book that I would like to have. Some of these are old books. Some of these are relatively new books. Some of these are books I definitely talked about. All these are books I've talked about on my channel because they're all books that I've liked and talked about. So I would like to have a first edition of William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury. I really like these old paperback editions that I have, some of Faulkner's works. I'd really love to have a first edition of The Sound and the Fury. I would really like to have a first edition of Toni Morrison's and a hardback first edition of Toni Morrison's Beloved, because this cover is absolutely hideous. Love Toni Morrison, love Beloved. Would like to have a copy of that book in the first edition. I would really like to have a copy of Edith Wharton's House of Mirth, the first edition of that in hardback. I also wouldn't mind an Age of Innocence there, but I think those would be great first editions to have. And then two recent books, literally books that were 1 and 2 on my books of the year for last year. I would love to have a hardback version of Cuddy by Benjamin Myers, which is a really great book and a really great historical novel in every way, shape, or form. This is definitely acquirable by me if I get over being cheap and buying, a hardback of a book I already have a paperback of. And then I would love to have a hardback, and probably will at one point buy a hardback copy of James by Percival Everett. If you watched this channel this year, you know that my kind of infatuation with Percival Everett's work has begun. And I made a video about that, and the publisher reached out to me and offered me a copy, an advanced copy of James, and they sent me this really convenient large print paperback copy, which I will keep always, but I would also like to and probably will acquire a hardback copy of James. So I think that's 10 books. I think that's 10 books that would make up this ideal shelf, this top 10 list of books that I wish I had or that I wish I owned. Pat tagged me, so I want to thank Pat for tagging me. If you want to do this same video, I think it was really fun and really interesting and got away from me to talk about books in a way that I didn't normally talk about before. And I'll leave a link to Pat's video down below as well as the original. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on any of the things I said in this video or the books I showed. Look forward to those comments in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you for watching.